Hi, everyone. In this video, I'll answer a question from a viewer that got lots of thumbs up from many of you, so it looks like it's relevant to lots of you. How can you tell if you're actually ready to date and not trying to fill a void? What does filling a void look like? That's something I mentioned in a previous video. Can you be ready to date and still naturally miss your ex, still love them, but know the relationship wasn't meant to be and have accepted the end of a chapter? Also, can I be single and comfortable with that and not in a rush to have companionship and the familiarity a partner brings? So let's go through this bit by bit. What does filling a void look like? My first thought about this isn't an either-or behavior. Either somebody's trying to fill a void or they're self-sufficient and ready to date. It's a spectrum or scale, and you want to avoid the extreme end of it, which is what I would call filling a void or trying to fill a void. I'm saying this because at the bottom of trying to fill a void, at the low end of the scale or spectrum, is our healthy and natural need for connection. And that's something that is valuable and important to honor and hold on to. It's natural and healthy to have a longing for other people in your life. It's healthy to want connection. We're a social species, and we rely on others to survive and thrive. We're wired to be happiest and healthiest when we're connected to others, and it's natural to feel a longing or an ache when some of that is missing. At the same time, the healthiest connection is a connection between individuals that are also able to find comfort, shelter, and footing within themselves, and not only through other people. It's important to be able to soothe yourself. If you rely excessively on your partner for your nervous system regulation, that will overburden them and strain the relationship. It'll also affect other relationships with friends, family members, children, because it'll put them in a situation of having to take care of you in ways that they shouldn't have to. So filling a void means over-relying on another person for your emotion regulation. It's natural to rely on and support each other in a healthy relationship and to help each other cope. At the same time, each individual is also responsible for regulating themselves and for finding a healthy balance there. And that's something you can learn to do when you're single as well, and is good to practice a bit after a breakup. If you were to start dating again from a place of trying to fill a void, of over-relying on another person to regulate your emotions, that would mean you try to skip over taking responsibility for yourself. It would mean dating in an attempt to try and avoid your feelings instead of learning how to feel and regulate them. It would mean not showing up for yourself. And that's a skill everybody needs, no matter if they're in a relationship or single. All that leads to is a difficult relationship with somebody you didn't carefully choose because you didn't want to be single for a bit, and a persisting void because no other person can fill the void that you can only fill yourself. The void you can only fill by yourself is the nervous system dysregulation that only you can learn to balance out by developing a healthy lifestyle with good food, movement, rest, and enough and regular sleep. It's the negative self-talk that only you can learn to replace with self-validation and self-kindness. It's the emptiness we feel when we're not aware of our values that can only be filled with living and breathing your values. It's the void we feel when our life is centered around avoiding discomfort rather than pursuing what matters to us. No partner can replace the inner work it takes to build a life that is healthy, happy, and feels meaningful and safe. There is a void and discomfort in life no other person can rescue us from, and when we look to others to do that, we're bound to be disappointed. And this is what you can use this time after a breakup for, to sort out amongst everything that I'm feeling. What is the natural grief and pain that follows heartbreak? What is my healthy and natural longing for connection? And what is discomfort that comes from things I still need to learn about showing up for myself? And this can go wrong in 3 major ways. You can be unaware of the necessity of learning to show up for yourself. You can be unaware of your healthy need for connection and decide to never date again, or a combination of both. Now, I want to move on to the second part of the question. Can you be ready to date and still naturally miss your ex, love them, but know the relationship wasn't meant to be and have accepted the end of a chapter? Yes, absolutely. It's a question of how much and how urgently you miss your ex. If almost all of your inner world is filled and consumed by a longing for your ex, you won't have the inner space you need for a new person, and you'll notice that dating won't work. At the same time, you can still have traces of that, parts in you that still miss your ex a little bit. That's okay, as long as what you described is also true, that you've accepted the end of a chapter. It wouldn't work out if you're still hoping to get back together or if you haven't accepted the breakup. And that doesn't mean you have to like it. It just means to stop struggling against the reality of the breakup, to allow it to be what it is. Maybe you'll like it in the future, but you don't have to like it to be ready to date. It's important not to seek a new relationship to avoid feeling that residue from your last relationship, but to allow both of that to coexist for a while you're dating. The developing feelings for the new person and the residue of the grief and pain from your last relationship. And then over time, this grief and pain will continue to get smaller and smaller. And now let's look at the last part of the question. Can I be single and comfortable with that and not rush to have companionship and the familiarity a partner brings? Definitely, you don't have to rush into something new. In fact, relationships are often a lot healthier if they're not rushed. It's healthy to give yourself time to heal and grow until you authentically feel ready to date. And that means listening into your own inner world and its signals, and not to what others might expect of you and your speed in being ready to date again. Being single isn't shameful or a problem, and you can fulfill your healthy and natural need for connection with friends and family. At the same time, you can acknowledge that at some point in the future, you'd like to be in a relationship again. It's an expression of and practice in emotional maturity to allow these two truths to coexist. You're single, and there's nothing wrong with you for being single. And at some point in the future, you'd like to be in a relationship again. It doesn't have to be either or. The thing to look out for here is your avoidance motivation. We all have two kinds of motivation: approach motivation and avoidance motivation. There are things we want and things we want to avoid. And these two types of motivation exist simultaneously alongside each other. And sometimes we don't notice what we want when our avoidance motivation is too high. For example, somebody who has been stuck in their home for months out of psychological reasons might not be able to feel and act on their approach motivation of wanting to leave the house because their avoidance motivation is too strong. They're too afraid of leaving the house, so they can't feel or act on wanting to. And somebody who might want to be in a relationship again eventually might not feel or act on that if they're also very afraid of anything that has to do with that: dating, rejection, conflict, vulnerability, getting hurt. So whenever you check in with yourself to collect data, am I ready to date again? Or am I still in a phase where I don't want to rush anything and give myself time to be single? Be sure to check in with both of your motivations, your approach and your avoidance motivation. Is you not dating an expression of approach motivation, of wanting time to heal and feel your feelings and feel comfortable being single? Or is it an expression of avoidance motivation, of not wanting to get hurt again? If it's an expression of approach motivation, that's great. You can go on. You're in your process. Awesome. If it's an expression of avoidance motivation, that means you've disconnected from your process and shut yourself behind protective but also isolating walls. That would mean you'd need to get back into your healing process so that you're on the track of approach motivation. That's the only way to live a fulfilling life, on the track of approach motivation. The track of avoidance motivation leads to a life of discomfort and growing discomfort and feeling unfulfilled. And approach motivation isn't only pursuing a new partner, it can also be giving yourself time to heal and be comfortable being single. That's also a goal you're pursuing versus avoiding feelings and choices, which is being on the track of avoidance motivation. And if you're authentically on the path of approach motivation, you're in direct and courageous contact with your inner world to listen to what it really wants and not only responding to what it's afraid of. And the things your inner world really wants never sound bitter or resentful, like, I'm done with men, they're all alike, or you can't trust women nowadays, they're all liars. That's what unhealthy avoidance motivation and anxiety sound like. Approach motivation comes from an intentional, differentiated, and thoughtful belief system. And excessive avoidance motivation comes from generalized negative beliefs about the world and other people, and if it makes sense to trust again or not, from bitterness, resentment, and anxiety. And it's okay to feel these things sometimes. That's human, and the world can be tough. At the same time, don't stay there. It won't make you happy. Be intentional with your conclusions and core beliefs so that they enable you to be on the track of approach motivation. Let me know what you think about these things in the comment section and share your experience. Till next time, take care, and remember to check in with both your approach and avoidance motivation.